There was a time when turning on your console meant getting smacked in the face, in the best possible way. The PS3 and Xbox 360 era brought so many insane games, it almost feels unreal. One incredible release after another, and surprisingly, not all the most famous ones were the most memorable. Some were underrated, others became cult classics, and a few were instant legends. But all of them had one thing in common: they left a mark on anyone who picked up the controller back then. Today, we're revisiting 21 legendary games that defined that generation. And before we dive in, let me know in the comments which one stuck with you forever. If you feel like supporting the channel, subscribing helps a lot. Let's get into it. What looked like another GTA clone turned out to be one of the generation's biggest surprises. Sleeping Dogs throws you into a vibrant Hong Kong full of shady alleys, neon-lit markets, and a criminal underworld ruled by loyalty and violence. The story blends investigation, undercover work, and personal drama with serious intensity. Its setting delivers culture, chaos, and identity like few others. Every mission feels important. Nothing about this world feels empty or generic. Combat is the highlight, fast, brutal, and fluid, with cinematic flair. Forget basic gunplay. This is all about punches, grabs, and stylish finishers worthy of action movies. Driving through tight streets while chasing or escaping is always thrilling. And the progression system pushes you to explore both sides of the character's double life. Side missions, street fights, and races round out the experience, all naturally tied into the world. Though praised by those who played it, the game was underestimated at launch, but time gave it its due. Now it's remembered as a rare gem, a game with soul, unforgettable atmosphere, and sharp gameplay. It deserved to become a franchise. If you skipped it back then, it's time to revisit this modern classic of urban chaos. The franchise was already legendary, but Castlevania Lords of Shadow dared to reinvent everything with a bold new take. It dropped the 2D formula for a third-person gothic world packed with monsters, sprawling castles, and secrets at every turn. The journey is epic, dark, and full of surprises. The story grows with each area and delivers twists that flip the entire plot. The progression is smooth, with upgrades that meaningfully change how you play, and each new location brings a distinct mood. Despite the drastic changes, it earned respect for delivering a powerful adventure. It's a different Castlevania, but still very much Castlevania. A bold title that split opinions at the time but aged gracefully. It deserves to be remembered as one of the most ambitious games of its era. If you're into intense action with epic backdrops, this one's essential. It's a more cinematic and violent version of the series, and it worked. Those expecting nostalgia found something fresh and fearless. Combat is straightforward but satisfying, with combos, spells, finishers, and smart use of the environment. The orchestral soundtrack and atmospheric visuals amplify the impact of every battle. There are unforgettable bosses, well-crafted puzzles, and a grand sense of scale. While it takes cues from God of War, it still maintains its own identity. When people talk about cinematic adventure games, Uncharted 2 is almost always the first name mentioned. This entry took the series to a whole new level, with scenes that felt ripped straight out of a blockbuster. From speeding trains to hidden Himalayan temples, every moment was designed to impress. The pacing is intense, but it knows when to slow down to let the story and characters breathe. Each chapter feels like a set piece, and it all flows with insane precision. Gameplay blends third-person shooting, climbing, exploration, and light puzzles. Nothing revolutionary on its own, but together it feels fresh and seamless. Environments are varied and full of life. Voice acting, animation, and cinematic direction create unforgettable scenes throughout. You really feel like you're inside an interactive film, but with full control. It was a turning point. It proved that games could deliver story, spectacle, and agency all at once without sacrificing momentum or personality. One of the PS3's biggest icons and still tough to beat. Replaying Uncharted 2 is like re-watching a classic film. You know what's coming, but it still hits every time. Explosive, irreverent, and ridiculously fun. Bulletstorm burst onto the scene, like a punch to the gut of traditional shooters, betting on creativity, exaggeration, and rewarding brutal style. Here, it's not enough to take enemies down, you've got to do it with flair. Kick, electrocute, impale, detonate, the crazier, the better the score. The creative kill system became the game's signature. Every encounter feels like a bloody playground. The campaign is straightforward but packed with personality. The dialogue drips with sarcasm, and the over-the-top humor matches the chaos of the action. Environments shift constantly, from open spaces to tight corridors and full-on chases. Amid the madness, the controls remain tight and the mechanics solid. It's impossible to get bored with this much weapon variety and death combos. Every new section is an excuse to invent a wilder way to obliterate your enemies. Initially brushed off as too over-the-top, it slowly gained cult status. Bulletstorm never asks to be taken seriously, it just wants you to have a blast. And in that, it totally succeeds. One of the most creative FPS games of its time, and one that deserves far more recognition. If you love non-stop action, this one will stick in your memory with a grin. Few games manage to be this fast, slick, and intense. Vanquish, created by the mind behind Bayonetta, redefined what third-person shooters could be. Instead of slow, cover-based pacing, it throws you into high-speed slides, dodges, and pinpoint kills at breakneck speed. Everything is fast, dynamic, and unrelenting. It feels like the game is always 2 steps ahead, daring you to keep up. Though not a commercial hit, Vanquish is legendary among those who played it. A hidden gem that fused Japanese flair with Western shooter design in a way no one else dared. Short, sharp, and unforgettable. If you love games that push your reflexes and coordination, this is pure adrenaline on disc. Combat relies on reflexes and aggressive mobility. Boost across the battlefield, slow down time to aim mid-chaos, and unleash a range of upgradable weapons. The soundtrack and visuals match the tempo, always surging forward. Its sci-fi narrative is loaded with conspiracies, tech warfare, and explosions, but the focus is pure gameplay, and it more than delivers. Released quietly, Dragon's Dogma became a cult favorite for those who discovered its depth. It throws you into an open world full of real danger and massive monsters. Nothing is easy here. Enemies hit hard, combat is demanding, and every class or skill choice reshapes your entire approach. The map isn't huge, but it feels packed with purpose. Every cave, forest, or village hides something worth your time. The true magic lies in the combat. Climb griffins, cling to chimeras, and engage in weighty, dramatic battles. Spells are spectacular, animations feel heavy, and the fight rhythm is rare in RPGs. Then there's the pawn system. Companions you train and lend to other players. They learn from your style and surprise you with unpredictable strategies. It's a system that still feels alive and unique. Despite lacking the marketing of major titles, Dragon's Dogma delivered a mature, tactical RPG with real soul. It was overlooked at launch, but those who played it never forgot. Over time, it gained the respect it always deserved and is now cited as inspiration for much bigger games. A hidden classic that's still worth every minute. Not many remember it, but the Saboteur was one of the most original games of its time. Set in Nazi-occupied Paris, it blends open-world design with sabotage, espionage, and a bold artistic twist. Occupied zones appear in black and white, only regaining color as you liberate them. It's a simple concept, but with huge emotional and visual impact. You don't just see change, you feel it, and that alone makes the game worth playing. Gameplay mixes gunfights, climbing, explosives, and infiltration. You can sneak in or go loud. Cars, weapons, disguises, and dynamic events keep the flow unpredictable. There are lookout towers to scale, enemy bases to raid, and missions with creative objectives. The city feels alive, full of threats and opportunities. The map may not be massive, but freedom is very real. Launched with little buzz, it was quickly forgotten, and that's a shame. The Saboteur offered a bold blend of art, politics, and gameplay few dared to replicate. Stylish, gutsy, and packed with good ideas. Over time, it earned cult status, and rightly so. If you've never played it, this is your chance to discover one of the most creative open worlds from the PS3 era. What started as just another underwater shooter became one of the most iconic stories in gaming. Bioshock drops you into Rapture, a sunken city built on the idea of absolute freedom, which quickly spiraled into madness. From the opening moments, you know something's off. As you wander empty halls, uncover old recordings, and explore abandoned labs, the pieces slowly come together. The atmosphere is unreal. Art Deco decay, whispered voices, and the ruins of a civilization that destroyed itself. Gameplay fuses traditional firearms with genetic powers, plasmids. You can burn, freeze, shock, or manipulate enemies in creative ways. It gives you freedom to solve encounters however you like. The sound design and eerie enemy behavior, especially the big daddies, leave a lasting impression. It's a game that hooks you with action, but stays with you because of the questions it asks. You're not just fighting, you're thinking. That was rare back then. Bioshock redefined what storytelling could be in games. Its twist is still considered one of the best ever. But more importantly, it challenges the idea of free will from start to finish. A true milestone that's aged beautifully and still shocks, stuns, and moves. If you own a console and haven't played Bioshock, you're missing something essential. Released with barely a whisper, Binary Domain is the kind of game that rewards those who take a chance. At first glance, it looks like just another shooter with robots, but it goes much deeper. Set in a future where humanity begins to lose control of its creations, it explores themes of ethics, artificial consciousness, and identity, all wrapped in a solid campaign with strong characters and emotional beats. Combat has a unique hook. Precise damage actually matters. Shoot a robot's head and it fires blindly, aim for the legs and it crawls. The trust system adds more depth. Your decisions shape how squad mates behave and interact. What seems like a straightforward setup becomes layered quickly. Fights are intense, the boss battles surprising, and the overall pace is tight. It may not be as well known as other big titles from the era, but Binary Domain deserves to stand with them. With heart, great dialogue, and a gripping story, it quietly outshines many AAA games. It didn't get the spotlight it deserved, but those who played it know this is a hidden gem worth discovering. When it comes to storytelling in games, The Walking Dead by Telltale became a benchmark. Instead of action or traditional survival, the focus is on choices. Every decision you make affects the story, your relationships, and even who lives or dies. The atmosphere is tense, and the writing doesn't pull punches. Dialogue is loaded with emotion and doubt. You play with a tight chest, knowing any answer might cost you dearly. The cel-shaded visuals give the game a living comic book feel, honoring its roots. The gameplay is simple: walk, talk, choose. But the emotional impact is massive. The story hits so hard at times it's tough to keep playing. It's not about winning, it's about doing the best you can with what you have. That constant sense of helplessness, it's by design. It was a turning point, proved that episodic, story-driven games could move people like a movie or series. It won awards, made people cry, and became a model for a new wave of interactive narratives. Even with simple graphics, it delivered one of the most powerful plots of its generation. If you skipped it, this is a story still worth experiencing. Few games balance action, story, and atmosphere like Metro: Last Light. The sequel takes you back to Moscow's post-apocalyptic Metro, where humanity clings to survival amid mutants, civil war, and paranoia. Stations have become cities, and every dark tunnel hides more than just fear. It hides history. The world is bleak, brutal, and dense, but full of unexpected beauty. And you live it all in first person, through fogged gas masks and constant tension. Gameplay shifts between intense shootouts, stealth, and detailed exploration. Ammo is currency, and every bullet counts. Sound design, visuals, and voice lines create a claustrophobic atmosphere like no other. It's not just about killing enemies, it's about keeping your mind intact in a world that no longer makes sense. Every corner adds depth. The gas masks, the flashlights, the echoes. Nothing is wasted. Without the big marketing push of other shooters, it won over those who wanted something deeper and more atmospheric. Metro: Last Light isn't meant to be rushed, it's meant to be absorbed. A masterclass in pacing and world building. It's not just a game you play, it's one you feel. One of the past generation's most underrated titles. Impossible to ignore once you've been there. No other game has said so much with so little like Journey. No dialogue, no combat, no HUD, just you, sand, music, and a path towards something greater. Every step reveals breathtaking landscapes meant to be admired in silence. The anonymous connection with another player turns it all into something magical. You don't know who they are, can't speak, but you feel it, and sometimes that's enough. It's about walking together even if alone. Gameplay is light. You slide across dunes, float, scale ruins, and follow a distant light. There are no instructions, just instinct. And the game trusts you to figure it out. Controls are simple but responsive. Music reacts to your actions, creating a meditative flow. Everything feels symbolic but never confusing. Each new setting evokes a different emotion: awe, fear. Journey isn't just a game, it's a feeling. It's about moving forward, about invisible connections, about loss and quiet rewards. It was praised by those who understood its vision, and to this day, it's one of the purest experiences in gaming history. A title that defined a generation using nothing but silence, wind, and sand. Back when military shooters ruled the market, Killzone 3 kicked in the door with a sci-fi punch. Featuring futuristic weapons, heavy armor, and planetary warfare, it brought intense action and stunning visuals to the PS. The battles are dirty, fast, and heavy. Every gunshot lands with brutal force. Everything's dark, metallic, and desperate. The war-torn environments feel real, and the campaign delivers truly memorable moments. Explosions, zero-gravity firefights, exosuits, all finely tuned. Gunplay is raw, with a unique cadence. Weapon recoil, slower movement, and tough enemies make each fight a tactical challenge. The campaign mixes snowy terrain, dense jungles, and tech-filled facilities. Vehicle sections and cinematic sequences keep the momentum high. Enemy AI is relentless, and the game never holds your hand. You need to think, aim carefully, and use cover. It's intense from start to finish. Though it never became a blockbuster franchise, Killzone 3 was one of the most solid shooters of its time. Its multiplayer was addictive, but the solo campaign alone is worth revisiting. A gritty war with no heroes, just gray decisions. It didn't get the fame of Call of Duty or Halo, but it earned its spot among the greats. Today, it's a forgotten gem worth dusting off. When it comes to superpowers and open worlds, Infamous 2 is still a standout. It improved everything the first game started: more diverse powers, smoother movement, and a living city to explore. You can play as a hero or a villain, and the world reacts accordingly. Your choices shape powers, how people treat you, and even how the story ends. The city is your battleground. Every rooftop, pole, and wall becomes part of the fight. Trivoshter is addictive. You race along power lines, scale buildings, leap huge gaps, and fire lightning with pinpoint accuracy. The skill progression is smartly paced, always giving you something new at just the right time. Enemies are varied, forcing new tactics. Powers range from electric blasts to explosives, all with satisfying impact. The city shifts with your alignment, strengthening your connection to it. Every action matters. Even with newer games trying to replicate its formula, few match the balance Infamous 2 achieved. It has style, meaningful choices, and gameplay that aged remarkably well. One of the PS3's finest exclusives and a dream come true for anyone who ever wanted full freedom with powers. A classic that deserves to be remembered and maybe even brought back with love. One investigation, 4 characters, and a mysterious killer. Heavy Rain was one of the first games to go all in on interactive storytelling, and it worked. Every choice changes the direction of the plot. Every action can be decisive. There are no extra lives, no checkpoints to redo your mistakes. If you fail, someone dies. And the story moves on. The game puts you against the clock, against your doubts, and against your own judgment. The tension never lets up, even in the quietest moments. Gameplay is built around QTEs and decisions. It may seem simple, but every button press, especially under pressure, matters. The story unfolds like a suspense thriller, filled with twists, red herrings, and moral dilemmas. The soundtrack heightens the drama, and the performances were groundbreaking for the time. You get attached to the characters and fear for them. The game forces you to make tough decisions and live with them. Heavy Rain paved the way for a new era of narrative-driven games. It was a massive risk that paid off. Even today, with so many successors, it still hits hard. The mystery of the origami killer, the inner struggles of the protagonists, the weight of each decision, they all leave a mark. If you're into heavy, challenging stories that push you into corners, this is one of the best ever made. When it comes to epic finales, God of War 3 is pure spectacle. The game opens with a titan climbing Mount Olympus, and somehow keeps ramping up from there. The battles against the gods are brutal, creative, and cinematic like nothing before. It takes Greek mythology and cranks it up to mythic proportions. Every boss fight feels like the final battle. Blood, rage, and destruction fuel the pacing from start to finish. Combat is tight and polished, with fluid combos, powerful spells, and weapons that truly change your approach. The combo system is deep yet accessible. Arena design is sharp, and the fixed camera adds a cinematic flair to every scene. Puzzles and exploration moments balance the rhythm between fights. The soundtrack only adds to the grandeur of each showdown. It's action from beginning to end, no time to breathe. Years later, few games have matched the visual and narrative punch of God of War 3. It was the peak of a trilogy that defined a generation. A game that gave everything at full volume and full intensity. If you played it back then, you remember how colossal it felt. And if you play it today, it still stuns. A true PS3 legend. Before earning acclaim with Hellblade, Ninja Theory was already showing its flair with Heavenly Sword. The game blends stylish combat with strong storytelling and a striking art direction. The protagonist wields a cursed sword that slowly drains her life, adding emotional urgency to every fight. The story unfolds like a theatrical play, with expressive performances and unforgettable scenes. It's dramatic, exaggerated, and because of that, completely unique. A game that aimed for art. Combat takes cues from God of War, but with its own flow. 3 fighting stances, switched in real time, offer variety on the fly. You alternate between power, speed, and balance with the press of a button. Combos are flashy, and enemies come with distinct patterns. There are also segments where you control projectiles by tilting the controller, a creative touch for the time. Progression moves fast and always brings something new. Even though it's short, the game makes an impression. It was one of the PS3's early showcases and proved this generation had space for bold, artistic projects. It never became a franchise, but it planted the creative seeds for what came next. A short, intense, and visually daring adventure. If you missed it back then, this forgotten gem is worth discovering. A game that showed brutality and beauty can go hand in hand. What if the world ended and only the animals were left? Tokyo Jungle takes that wild idea and turns it into one of the most original games of its generation. You start as a small dog in a Tokyo now overtaken by nature. Eventually, you can unlock cats, deer, lions, even dinosaurs. It's all about hunting, surviving, escaping, and dominating territory. A living food chain where only the most adaptable survive. Surprising from start to finish. Gameplay blends stealth, action, and resource management. You need to eat, find shelter, build packs, and avoid predators. Each species has its own traits, changing the pace entirely. A pigeon fights to stay airborne, while a tiger rules the streets. Time keeps moving. The longer you survive, the more chaotic the world becomes. Weather events, territorial wars, and cryptic clues about humanity's fall appear as you play. Tokyo Jungle was a gamble that paid off. Built on a modest budget, it became a cult hit thanks to its boldness and the emergent stories born from its systems. It's unpredictable, funny, tense, and sometimes even sad. A natural chaos simulator no one expected, but those who played will never forget. A game that could only have existed in that generation. Based on Dante Alighieri's literary classic, Dante's Inferno reimagines the poem as a brutal descent through the circles of hell. The concept is simple. Face your sins while traveling through a grotesque, symbolic world. Each area represents a deadly sin, with enemies and settings designed to shock through sheer creativity. Everything is raw, disturbing, and painful. The story is soaked in guilt, suffering, and redemption, with a man forced to face horrors of his own making, and everything has weight. The gameplay is inspired by God of War, packed with combos, magic, and graphic finishers. But it introduces its own twist with a judgment system. You choose to absolve or condemn souls, unlocking different skills. The levels shift constantly, and bosses are twisted embodiments of sin. The soundtrack supports the dark religious tone. It's an intense game, visually striking, and its mechanics still hold up. It was criticized for copying others back then, which sadly overshadowed its unique identity. Today, it's remembered fondly by those who embraced its daring style. It's uncomfortable, symbolic, and unlike anything else from that era. A journey into hell that's still worth taking, especially if you love action with thematic depth. The trilogy ended with a bang. This game brought everything fans loved, but bigger, more emotional, and more polished. The war with the Locust reaches its climax, and characters reveal sides never seen before. The campaign mixes non-stop action with moments of grief and stillness. It's the most human entry in the series, and even with all the brutality, it finds space for genuine emotion. A powerful, worthy finale, full of unforgettable scenes. Gameplay is sharper than ever, cover shooting, grenades, chainsaws, and desperate firefights in tight corridors. The AI is smarter and combat always keeps you on edge. Co-op shines, letting you take on the campaign with friends in a seamless, impactful way. Weapons feel powerful, pacing is tight, and each level knows how to keep pressure high. It's strategy, emotion, and raw action, all in perfect balance. The third game didn't just close a trilogy, it cemented a legacy. It marked the peak of one of Xbox 360's most iconic franchises. If you were there, you remember how massive it felt. If not, now's the time to discover one of the greatest third-person shooters ever made, a classic that defines its generation, loud, heavy, and unforgettable. If the first game was pure horror, Dead Space 2 struck a perfect balance between fear and action. It opens with you waking up in a monster-infested space station, and by the time things go wrong in the first 5 minutes, it's already too late. The atmosphere is suffocating, and the pacing is relentless. You slice off mutated limbs with surgical precision. Every dark hallway feels like it's hiding something horrible. Gameplay got an upgrade, smoother movement, more fluid combat, and deadlier weapons. Level design builds tension constantly with smart jump scares and intense action bursts. The upgrade system stayed strong. Sound design and music create a constant sense of dread. The game makes you think twice before turning every corner. Dead Space 2 is faster, more aggressive, but never loses its horror roots. It's one of the most impactful titles of its generation, still remembered for its shocking moments, disturbing environments, and ever-present terror, a modern horror landmark in gaming. If you want something intense, terrifying, and unforgettable, this is it. Now it's your turn. Which of these games left the biggest mark on your gaming life? Which one did you beat more than once or still randomly pops into your mind? Drop a comment below. I'm curious to see if someone remembers a title that should have made the list. And hey, if you can, hit subscribe to help the channel grow and never wonder what to play again. I've left a video suggestion in the card, one with legendary PS4 games. Just click to keep the nostalgia rolling. Big hug, happy gaming, and see you tomorrow.